Hey, and welcome to Segalicious, the series with the stupid name where we explore Sega games both old and new. Throughout their many years of expanding into various genres, Sega has always been a fan of puzzle games, and today's game is probably the most infamous of the bunch. Released for the Sega Genesis in 1994, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is one that I remember playing a lot as a kid, and it's essentially a grittier version of Puyo Puyo. Despite most Sonic the Hedgehog games falling nicely into the platformer genre, Mean Bean Machine is a pure puzzle adventure, one that forces lots of wacky imagery onto the player. Just like with my Sonic Spinball episode, I can confidently say that Mean Bean Machine also used to scare the crap out of me as a kid, and upon returning to it over a decade later, it still kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. With a dark tone, frantic puzzle gameplay, and an infamously challenging difficulty level, let's explore Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. You might think that all Mean Bean Machine has to offer is its puzzle gameplay, but there's more to it than meets the eye. For instance, did you know that this game has a narrative? Set on planet Mobius, the evil Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman if you're a zoomer like me, hatches a very dastardly plan that will result in world domination if he isn't stopped. Our egg-shaped antagonist plans to kidnap all the residents of Beanville and transform them into robotic servants using his Mean Bean steaming machine, say that 5 times fast, so he can use them for his crimes against humanity. Robotnik's first step is to send out his henchmen to force Beanville's populace into prison dungeons, but this is where our hero comes in. Has-Been, yes, this is his actual name, I'm not making this up, catches wind of Robotnik's plan and decides to take action, preventing his servants from finishing Robotnik's plan. You might think that a puzzle game set in the Sonic universe would be very fun and whimsical and kind of cutesy, but Mean Bean Machine is the direct opposite. I was surprised that the developers were like, yeah, we can include themes of body horror and war crimes in our puzzle game, and I can't help but love it. The constant bean-related puns and techno-horror character designs provide the game with an extremely unique aesthetic, and I can't say there are many other Genesis games like it. Also, I swear this has to be Robotnik at his most evil, and even though I'm definitely reading into things too much, he seems like a right prick here. Robot kidnapping aside, you might be wondering how this game was even created in the first place, and luckily I do have the answer. Mean Bean Machine was developed by Compile, the Japanese studio behind the aforementioned Puyo Puyo, and their original plan was to simply introduce that series into the West. Fearing that Westerners wouldn't really understand Puyo Puyo's anime qualities, Sega decided to make some changes to the game, and despite publishers interfering with original Japanese works usually resulting in an inferior final product, I feel that it works here for the better. It's very clear that both games look extremely similar on a surface level, but I do vastly prefer the robotic characters in Mean Bean Machine. They all look very menacing, and this visual style complements the game's dark tone beautifully. Now that we understand the why and how behind Mean Bean Machine, let's explore its gameplay systems. On a surface level, the game is very easy to understand, and it doesn't involve many buttons, but as you progress, it gets way harder. Beans in a variety of colors fall down from the top of the screen, and your goal is to rotate and place them in such a way that allows 4 of the same color to connect. When this happens, they explode, clearing part of your grid. This process keeps going until one player loses from having their grid become full. Simple, right? Well, maybe on a surface level initially, yes, but there is a lot more gameplay depth than one might expect. When 4 beans explode, any beans on the top will drop, changing their position. Some of you might see where I'm going with this, but the idea is to create chain reactions of explosions. The bigger the combo, the more you can screw over the other player, and this system prioritizes long-term decision-making and risk avoidance over short-term gratification. In other words, instead of having a series of rapid yet really small explosions, try setting up some big ones that will happen over a period of time. These combos will send over grey beans to your opponent, which the game's instruction manual calls refugee beans, and because they come from a different clan, they can't assimilate with the others. No, I'm not making this up, yes, this is real. Over time, the beans' drop rate will increase, forcing you to play faster. With less time to make decisions comes a higher chance of making quick yet fatal mistakes, and this is where the stress and pressure can quickly pile on. In the single-player mode, there are 13 levels to complete, and they all steadily increase in difficulty. You start by battling the lowest of the henchmen before eventually encountering Dr. I Hate Refugees Robotnik himself in a heated final battle, but reaching Robotnik isn't as easy as placing some beans here and there. No. Like I mentioned earlier, this game is infamous for being brutally difficult, and I've personally never been able to beat it. Get it? Bean? They each play almost perfectly with calculated bean placements that will often come back to bite you later on when things are getting tense, and they can be really fast too. Each enemy has a unique character design and strategy which you'll have to adapt to in real time, and this prevents the AI from feeling samey, which is an awesome feature. As a kid, I never knew what would await me in the following levels, and finally being able to progress through Robotnik's dungeon upon defeating a robot was often the highlight of my week. However, if you find yourself defeated and back on the title screen, there's no real save function, so I hope you memorized the password. Yep, that's right. Mean Bean Machine is a password game, and a weird one at that. Instead of something like, I don't know, Mega Man, where you have to punch in a numerical code, Robotnik forces the player to memorize specific colors of beans, so good luck writing these down if you can't draw like me. Every difficulty level also has a unique set of passwords, adding to the memorization required, and I can't imagine how crushing it must have been to be a 90s kid and forget what one of them was before you had the chance to write it down. I even found a comment from last month saying that the game is evil on a website displaying the password codes, and I feel so validated hearing someone agree with me. Despite being frustratingly challenging in single player, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is still a fun time if you can get a friend to play it with you, and even though all these years have passed since its release, I find that it's aged splendidly on a visual and aesthetic level. In my opinion, the Sega Genesis could render gritty 16-bit visuals better than any other system, and Mean Bean Machine is one of the best examples of such a style. Despite the title never receiving a proper sequel, Puyo Puyo was receiving new games non-stop, and the series even found its way in the West, so I recommend trying it out if you like puzzle games. There are a bunch of ways to experience Dr. Robotnik's evil plan on a variety of systems, and if you're a portable gamer, you can even download the game on the Switch via Nintendo Online's emulator service. With how Sega is committed to resurrecting their old IPs, I would love to see a remake of this title with modern visuals and audio, but for now, I'm quite happy with the 90s Genesis original. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Segalicious.